So why is it important for you to set boundaries with your children? Because your children need to understand that what is yours and what is theirs is theirs. So let's talk about boundaries as a mother, because I see so many mothers who allow their children to use everything they have, and when their children grow up, your children won't allow you to do that. Okay, so we need to talk about how you're going to be setting boundaries with your child, with your child, and these boundaries that I'm talking about, like, it starts from when your child is small. Okay, and if you did not set those boundaries when your child was small, and now your child is a teenager, you still need to apply this will still work, and you can still benefit from it as well. So let's go into it. You guys know if I'm looking down, it's because I have notes and I don't want to forget what I want to say in this video. So when a mother does not set boundaries with her children will end up disrespecting her time, space, and they will not value her purpose or her career. So what do I mean by that? When you tell your child that, look, I want you to watch TV because I'm going to be upstairs in my room reading this, reading that, your child needs to understand that that is not the time for you to ask me for biscuit. That is not the time for you to tell me that you're hungry. That is not the time for you to tell me that you want to stay with me. No, your child needs to understand that this is mommy's time and mommy's busy, and I can only ask mommy for something if it's only an emergency. If it's not an emergency, I have to wait until mom is finished. Okay, your child needs to respect your time. It is not okay for you to try and study and your child is constantly coming to you over things that are not urgent. Okay, now when they're about the age of 2, 3, 4, they'll have this habit of crying to you, okay, because children will do this where they see mom studying but they don't want mom to study, so they'll cry over something that is very, very silly just to get your attention, because they know that when they cry you're eventually going to get up. Now the thing is, crying is not a bad thing for a child to cry, and your child is not going to die when they cry. So you have to now train your child to understand that I'm not always going to attend to you every single time you cry, because I know what you're trying to do. So if you stop attending to your child's needs every time they cry, unless if you know that they've hurt themselves, they've done something, or it's something serious, that then you attend, then the child will then understand that they can no longer use that trick in their books against you. Okay, so this is the thing, so that when the child grows up, the child understands that mom time is mom time, and it's not the time for me to go in and disturb her or ask her stupid questions or try to do the most. All right, so the next one is, the earlier you set boundaries with your child, the more your child will respect your alone time, and your child will understand how to set boundaries with their friends. Let me give you an example of myself. When my child was a lot younger and my hair was a lot shorter, I had cut my hair. My child used to love, my son loved my kinky hair. He would love touching my kinky hair. He loved how kinky it was and how spongy it felt and everything. And so I was like, okay, there's nothing wrong with that. And then when my child would go to school and I would pick him up from school, his friend would touch his head. And I didn't like that, okay? Because in our culture, it's not a good thing for people to just touch your head, especially strangers or people that you don't know, or people that you don't live with, to be touching your head anyhow. And so I told my son, I told him, I said, can you tell your friend to stop touching your head? If not, I'm going to have to do it for you. And my son was so afraid, like he didn't know how to tell his friends to stop touching his head. And the reason why he didn't know how to set those boundaries was because when he was touching my hair, I didn't set that boundary with him to understand that no, you cannot just touch anybody's head. You have to ask to touch people's hair. So when we go home that day and he was about to touch my hair, I said no. I did this, little tap in the hand. I said, no, you're not allowed touching my hair. If you want to touch my hair, you have to ask me. And that's how it is when you go out. When you go out and you see people's hair and you like their hair, you don't just touch their hair. You have to ask. Okay. And when I told him that, I've shown him indirectly how to set boundaries, so that when someone else does it to you, then you're able to say no. So when you teach your kids how to set boundaries by you setting your own boundaries against them, then they will know how to do the same when they go out. Okay, so let me tell you the type of boundaries that you need to set with your child in order for you to enjoy your alone time, because as a mother you are entitled to have alone time. You are entitled to pause, meditate, breathe, study, and do your own thing. Okay, you're not out here living for children. You've had children, but you're not living for their sake. Okay, so one of the boundaries you need to set is that it gets to a certain age where they're no longer allowed to sleep in your room, and single mothers tend to make this mistake, and this thing has a long-term effect. So when your child is small, like, or a newborn, you know, the child could be in your room up to the age of about maybe 1. You know, when it goes past the age of 1, that child needs to be in their own room. Yes, you're a single mom and you might not have a husband in your house, or you might not have a boyfriend in your house, but if that child does not learn to sleep in their own room before a boyfriend or a husband comes into your life, it's going to be a struggle, because that child feels like they are entitled to sleep in your room, on your bed, even if your husband or boyfriend is around, and they will not respect your privacy. And when both of you are trying to make love or cuddle or whatever, what you find is the child will constantly walk into the room and interrupt the whole process, and it just, after a while, it gets annoying. Okay, it gets very annoying. Your boyfriend or your husband may not express it, but it does get annoying. How do I know this? Because when I go to the office and I go to work, I hear people talk about it. I hear men talk about it. So I know they find it annoying. Even I find it annoying. After my child was like 3, you know, my child still wanted to sleep in my room right up to the age of 5. I said, no, you need to go back. The only time you're here is when you have a nightmare, and that cannot be every night, because if that's every night, that we need to go to church and we need to pray that out. So he had to learn to go and sleep in his room and to overcome the fear of sleeping alone. So single mothers, always have this in mind. If you know that there's a time where you are going to get married, you are going to have a boyfriend, and you are going to sleep together on the same bed, then your child at a certain age, for me 2 maximum, they need to start sleeping in their own room. Now I know they're going to start crying. Okay, so what you could do is you could go to their room and sleep in their room with the child. Once the child has slept, then you can sneak out and go back to your own room. Okay, and then if they do this thing where they're crying at midnight, like I said before, let that child cry. The child is not going to die because it's crying. Sometimes crying is good. You can have a really good sleep after crying. Okay, don't worry about that cry. It will stop. He's just trying to trick you into doing what he wants you to do. He or she, depending on what gender your child is. The next one is your child needs to ask you for permission before using anything that belongs to you. I see mothers do this. You know, you're giving your child your phone, you're giving your child you're just giving your child everything that belongs to you. And even mothers who have teenagers do this. Mothers who have adult children are still doing this. My brother, who's like 24, he would take my mom's AirPods and use them without asking permission. And I always tell my mom, I'm like, why are you allowing him to do that? He has to learn that what belongs to you belongs to you, and you can't just walk in and use your things. Because think about it, if you were to walk over to your teenage child and use their stuff, how would they feel? They'd be like, Mom, that belongs to me, that's mine, I need it, blah blah blah. But for some reason they feel like it's okay for them to do that to you. No, it's not okay. Because this thing, if you don't set this boundary, they'll feel like it's okay for them to take your purse and take what they want in your purse. Okay, children don't stop. So if your child wants to use anything that belongs to you, they need to ask for permission. If you don't ask for permission, there needs to be consequences. They need to be punished. These are certain boundaries that has to be set. So when they go to school, when they go to work, they know that they cannot just take people's things. They have to ask before they take people's things. This is why we have adults who just use people's things without asking. It's not good. It's lack of home training. It's lack of just, I don't know how to even say it. If it's not yours, don't use it. Okay, it's not yours. It doesn't matter if we're family, Doesn't matter if we're blood related, it's not yours. The next one is stopping your child from eating your food while you're eating. So it's okay if you decide that, you know, I want to share my food with my child. That's okay. But if it's a case where you've started eating and then your child is just like hello, did you ask? Did you ask? That is rude, and you need to stop that. That's a boundary that needs to be set ASAP. The next one is knocking before you enter the room. Oh my goodness, let me tell you, when I was young, okay, because in an African household, I can't really talk about other people's household, we don't usually knock before we walk in. This was a bad habit in my family house. Very, very bad habit. And so one time, I think my parents were like doing the do, and I just bam walked in. Oh gosh. Ever since that day, I was given out to always make sure that I knock before I come in. Okay, so this is something that if you're not used to this in your household, you need to start implementing this. Okay, you don't want your child walking in while you're naked, or you're doing the do, or whatever it is that you're doing that they shouldn't know that you're doing. You don't want them to see it, so they have to learn to knock from a very young age. Put this in their head. Okay, if your child does not knock before they come in, you're not attending to anything, and you're not going to hear anything, and you're not going to listen to anything. If they come in without knocking, tell them to go back out, knock again, and then walk back in. They've got to learn it. Okay, they've got to learn this thing. And even if they're teenagers now, you still need to set this boundary. Okay, another one is for your child to stop talking to your friends. Okay, I understand that when your friends come over to your house, they see your child and, you know, they say, hi, how are you? Are you okay? How's school? You know, all that is good. But that is where it should end. Your child should not be comfortable talking to your friends about you, or what's going on in the family, or, you know, personal things. Because some children talk a lot. Okay, and you know, there's nothing you can do about that. Some children like to talk a lot, some children are quiet, some children are shy. But if you have a child that likes to talk a lot, they should not feel comfortable talking to your friends, they shouldn't feel comfortable sharing too much information about your personal life, family, and all these things to your friends. There needs to be a boundary there. It should just be, hi, how are you? How's school? I'm good. That's it. Because your friend is not your child's friend. Does that make sense? Your friend is not your child's friend. Your friend is old enough to be your child's auntie or your child's uncle. And are you going to, you know, you're not going to turn your friend into their auntie or their uncle. So you have to be careful of that, because I've seen this thing extend to the point that when you now are dating someone, then your child obviously all of a sudden feels entitled to be talking to the guy that you're dating and telling the guy that you're dating, I want this, get me that, because you haven't set the boundary that when you see my friends or you see my colleagues, you don't talk too much. Okay, you, hi, how are you? That's it, and that's where it ends. And you go upstairs to your room and do what you're doing, and give me the privacy with my friends. Your child needs to understand that when your friends are in the house, you and your friend are talking, which leads to the next one is your child needs to learn to stop interrupting you when you're talking to your mates. I had a friend who was, you know, at the dating stage with a guy, and whenever she spoke to this guy, her child would interrupt every single sentence. I felt sorry for the guy. And, you know, guys would never admit to you how annoying these things are. They would never tell you. You know, they'll just act like it doesn't bother them, but it does. Every single sentence that child was interrupting, and it was rude. It was rude, it was unnecessary. And when I told her, I said, you can't keep going on like that. And she's like, oh, but he doesn't mind. My boyfriend's okay with it. I said, just because he hasn't said anything doesn't mean he's okay with it. And it'll get to a point where she's talking to the dude and the child will be crying on the phone. I want noodles. And she's talking to the dude and the child knows that she's on the phone, and the child will feel so comfortable interrupting every single phone call. That is lack of boundary. And any dude that you're dating and that is mature would know immediately that you are not giving that child enough home training. And no matter how much you tell someone, oh, but my child is da 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 da, no, it's not acceptable. You have to teach that child boundary. You have to. Your boyfriend is not your child's boyfriend, because I've seen women who have daughters that are very young, and the daughters will turn their boyfriend into their boyfriend. No, it's unacceptable. So these are boundaries that you need to set. You might find a lot of things that I've said in this video harsh, but when you don't set these boundaries and your child continues to grow with these behavior, you're going to get to that point where you're going to find it irritating and very annoying. So I know exactly what I'm saying. There was a time where my son, I received a text message. This was a time when my son was even young, like very young. I received a text message and my son took my phone, and I told him, I said, well, what are you doing with my phone? And he's like, oh, but I want to read the message. I said, no, is that your phone? It's not your phone. So put the phone down. But he felt so comfortable to take my phone and to read the message on my phone out loud to every single member of my family, until I told him, I said, next time when I get a call or I get a message, you leave the phone alone. Don't touch the phone. You don't need to see what's on that phone. That's for me, not for you. And after that day, he didn't do it again. Some of you, your child is so comfortable with your phone that your child knows your password to your phone, and then they start doing stuff on it. And if you don't set this boundary, especially if it's a son, he will grow up to take money from you, and he would feel entitled because you've not set this boundary yet. So please set boundaries as a mom, okay? Yes, you are a mom. Yes, you provide for your children, but what belongs to you belongs to you. What belongs to your kids belongs to your kids. If not, then your kids might as well start wearing your bra. If you feel like everything that belongs to you belongs to your kids, then your kids should start wearing your bra. And if your kids can't wear your bra, then what does that tell you? Then that means everything you own does not belong to your kids. Okay? Boundaries are important. Boundaries are a good foundation for a healthy relationship between a mother and a child. So that's it for this video. I hope you all are blessed, and if you have any questions, write in the comment section. Follow me on TikTok because I do more talking on TikTok as well. All right, that's it. Stay blessed and stay beautiful. Bye.